How the Reynoldsburg School District Got Its Shape. Part 9, 1980 through 1992, Playing Catch Up. As a reminder, here's what the boundaries of the Reynoldsburg City School District looked like in August 2025. Where we left off in Part 8, the Reynoldsburg School District had been steadily whittled down by annexations of territory to the City of Columbus and their subsequent transfers to the Columbus School District. But increasingly, the school board for Columbus City Schools had been willing to allow the City of Columbus to annex areas without asking for them to be transferred into the Columbus City School District afterward, resulting in the so-called common areas. This was a pretty sweet deal for the City of Columbus. They would get the property taxes without having to worry about pushback from people living in those areas who had no interest in taking their kids out of their suburban schools and into Columbus City Schools. As for the Columbus City School District, although it didn't see any of the property tax revenue, at least it also wasn't getting an increased student population to take care of. But as levies got harder to pass, it got harder to ignore that lost revenue, theoretically there for the asking. And when the Columbus School Boards about asking the state board to do some belated school district territory transfers, suburban school districts freaked. 1980 through 1986. Everybody wins. In response to the anxiety, in 1980, the state legislature passed a law telling the state board to hold off on the big city school district territory transfers for 2 years. During that time, the City of Columbus, the Columbus School District, and its neighboring school districts were to negotiate permanent boundary agreements once and for all. But in 1982, the state legislature granted a 2-year extension on the moratorium. During that time, the City of Columbus, the Columbus School District, and its neighboring school districts were to negotiate permanent boundary agreements once and for all, this time for real. But in 1984, the state legislature granted another 2-year extension on the moratorium. During that time, the City of Columbus, the Columbus School District, and its neighboring school districts were to negotiate permanent boundary agreements once and for all. And this time, the legislators really meant it. 2 more years, and that was it. In 1986, with the for sure deadline looming, a House representative took it upon himself to reach out to a conflict resolution expert named Irving Goldaber and pitch the idea of Goldaber coming in to see if he could work his magic with the City of Columbus and the nearby school districts. The result was the so-called win-win agreement, named after Goldaber's signature negotiating technique. Columbus City Schools and 11 other Central Ohio school districts, including Reynoldsburg, agreed that henceforth, any land that the City of Columbus annexed would also become part of the Columbus City School District. The Columbus City School District agreed not to call for the transfer of the existing common areas, provided that they got a percentage of the tax revenues generated by that development. Even at the time, critics of the deal compared the arrangement to a protection racket. Lose some money by giving us a cut, or lose it all when we take over your business. In any case, the deal was approved by the legislature and signed by the governor, and shaped the growth of Central Ohio cities and school districts for the next 30 years. For an excellent and fun-to-read history of the win-win agreement, check out Getting Around Brown, Desegregation, Development, and the Columbus Public Schools by Gregory S. Jacobs, 1998. The win-win agreement and the years of conflict leading up to it had shone a spotlight on the value of having your school district boundaries line up with your city boundaries. This was a good lesson for the Reynoldsburg School Board to absorb, because 30 years after a big business planted an operation on East Broad Street and kicked off a school district turf war, it was about to happen again. 1987 through 1990. Les Wexner comes to town. In 1988, Limited Brands, the apparel brand owned by local multimillionaire Les Wexner and now known simply as L Brands, was looking to build a headquarters and distribution center in Jefferson Township along East Broad Street, about 3 miles to the east of the Western Electric, now Bell Labs, site. They'd need water and sewage services, which the City of Reynoldsburg could supply, provided that the area was annexed into the city. Hey, they'd done it for the Fire Academy and the Department of Agriculture. But before we get into that, let's back up a few years. The last time any adjustments had been made to the Reynoldsburg School District boundaries had been in 1979. As a memory refresher, the map below shows how things looked at the end of the Comity of the Common Areas. Notice that large portions of Reynoldsburg School District lay outside Reynoldsburg city limits, and the only parts of the City of Reynoldsburg that were not part of the Reynoldsburg School District were the Fairfield County Fantail and the Department of Agriculture and Fire Academy land in Licking County, here and here. 10 years later, with the impending arrival of Les Wexner and Limited Brands, the City of Reynoldsburg got approval from the Franklin County Commissioners to annex more than 900 acres of Jefferson Township along East Broad Street. They also annexed about 110 acres in Lima Township, the township immediately east of Jefferson Township. The annexed area is where Summit Road and Refugee Road intersect at the city's northeast corner. Meanwhile, for the past 20 years, the Reynoldsburg City School District's Board of Education had paid seemingly little attention to annexations by the City of Reynoldsburg. The last time there had been a serious attempt to keep a territory in the school district had been with the Rubber Ducky Tract in 1969, and even that fight had been led by the city government. But now, with the lessons of the Columbus City Schools' territorial disputes still fresh in their memory, and looking ahead to the prospect of massive commercial development in the City of Reynoldsburg's newest annexations, the Reynoldsburg School District Board of Education got busy. Starting in December of 1989 and through most of 1990, they set about asking the state board to transfer almost all of that land into the district. While they were at it, they also asked for the transfer of some other areas that the City of Reynoldsburg had annexed in the previous 15 years. There was the Fire Academy and Department of Agriculture lab in Licking County. In Fairfield County, there was the Fairfield County Fantail, of course. Also during that time, the city's quest in the 1970s to absorb the northwest corner of Fairfield County had become almost fully realized, with the addition of the rest of Blacklick Woods Metro Park and what is now a big chunk of the Taylor Square Shopping Center. This rediscovered energy was doubtless reinforced by the appointment in late 1990 of a new school board member who knew a thing or two about municipal annexations. "When I was in office," he told the Columbus Dispatch, "I always made sure that we had land set aside for schools, and I worked with developers to make sure that was done. We need to get back to that." This forceful new board member was Richard Doherty, and he had the receipts to back his claim. The office he was referring to was that of Mayor of Reynoldsburg, which he had held for all of the 1970s. He would have been instrumental in helping the Reynoldsburg School District acquire the land to build Baldwin Road Junior High in 1971. And of course, it was then Council President Doherty and Mayor Twyford who had squared off against the Columbus city government in winning back the Rubber Ducky Tract in 1969. Some of the transfer requests were granted straight away. The Fire Academy and Department of Agriculture land was transferred as requested. So was the newly annexed Taylor Square area. The Fantail area along Route 256 was still a hard sell with the Violet Township trustees. But the Reynoldsburg School District did end up gaining 25 acres of that, too. Blacklick Woods Metro Park was a flat no. The map below shows how things stood in mid-1990. But on the north side of the city, the transfer campaign hit a bigger bump in the road. 1990 to 1991. Licking Heights bites back. The bump in the road was Licking Heights Local Schools, the neighboring school district to the northeast. Their school board wanted to hang on to that territory for the same reason that the Reynoldsburg School Board wanted it to be transferred: a bigger commercial property tax base to fund its operations. In a Columbus Dispatch article from June 18, 1990, Superintendent Richard Ross put in a good word on the city's behalf. The Limited would not have come here had it not been for the foresight of the Reynoldsburg City Council to provide water and sewer lines to the site, not to mention the tax abatements that they had approved. Licking Heights Treasurer Phyllis Bowers saw it differently. It's in our district, and we see no reason to change that. There are no students involved. It's just an industrial area. Ross had a response to that. Sure, the annexed area itself won't have any students, but you know who will have a lot more students after the Limited has turbocharged nearby residential developments? Reynoldsburg schools. We're going to have significant growth in our number of students. If we're going to have the kids, we should have the money, he told the Dispatch. The situation was further complicated by the fact that not all of that territory was actually in the Licking Heights School District. Some of it had been in the Reynoldsburg School District for decades. Here's a map of the area in question in mid-1990. The Reynoldsburg School District is shown in magenta. The areas recently annexed by the City of Reynoldsburg are shown in yellow. 3 areas meet both descriptions and are shaded both magenta and yellow, resulting in a sort of muddy purple. In fact, these 3 parcels and the northward pointing yellow shaded parcel that touches all of them were all part of a single annexation that scooped up parts of 2 school districts and 3 townships. This tri-township annexation, outlined in a thick dashed line, reminds me of my high school pre-calculus class when we learned about the right-hand rule for vector cross products. If you look at the image of the person's right hand below, you can think of the annexation like this. Thumb, the z-axis. Licking Heights schools in Jefferson Township, like this. Pointer finger, the x-axis. Reynoldsburg schools in Jefferson Township, present-day Wagoner Road campus. So, like this. Middle finger, y-axis. Reynoldsburg schools in Truro Township. You might have to imagine the middle finger pointing straight at you, like this. Remaining fingers, Reynoldsburg schools in Etna Township, like this. The state board heard their respective cases in May of 1990, and 6 months later issued their decision. You guys figure it out among yourselves. By June of 1991, the 2 school districts had arrived at an agreement that was unlike any territorial agreement among school districts, and which would profoundly affect the shape of the Reynoldsburg School District. The good news: the agreement declared that the easternmost tract, about 225 acres at the northeast corner of the disputed area, would be transferred into the Reynoldsburg School District. The bad news: all of the other areas in the Licking Heights School District would stay there. The even worse news: some of those areas in the right-hand rule annexation would be transferred out of the Reynoldsburg School District and into Licking Heights, specifically the index finger x-axis area in the Jefferson Township, the old Josiah Lund tract, the present-day location of Wagoner Road Junior High and Elementary School, part of the Reynoldsburg School District for more than 50 years, would now become part of the Licking Heights School District. The middle finger Y-axis area in Truro Township, which had never been part of the Licking Heights School District, would be transferred as well. This 24-acre tract at the northeast corner of Truro Township had been owned by a farmer named Matthew M. Stewart at the turn of the 20th century and had been in the Reynoldsburg School District ever since Reynoldsburg Village Schools separated from Truro Township Schools in 1871. Its transfer to Licking Heights created the confounding protrusion of Licking Heights School District into the Reynoldsburg School District that exists to the present day. In the news clipping to the left, you can read about Matthew Stewart's experience with a cyclonic storm that passed north of Reynoldsburg in 1928. The Reynoldsburg School District did get to keep part of the right-hand rule annexation that lay in Etna Township. But Licking Heights wasn't done yet. They would also be taking all the other parcels in Jefferson Township on the eastern side of Wagoner Road, parcels that hadn't even been contested. So, Licking Heights got the parcel now occupied by the Macedonian Church just south of the Wagoner campus and the Trotter Farm just north of it. And that's how the Reynoldsburg School District ended up with its island of territory on the west side of Wagoner Road. Those 4 acres had been transferred into the Reynoldsburg School District back in 1946. Now, 45 years later, they were geographically separated from the rest of the district when the Trotter Farm across the street became part of Licking Heights Schools. So, Trotter Farm, Macedonian Church, all went to Licking Heights, leaving this as an island. And just for good measure, the agreement specified that the area between the Trotter Farm and East Broad Street, the present-day location of the shops at East Broad, would remain in Licking Heights School District, even if it eventually got annexed into the city of Reynoldsburg, which it did. So here's a picture of the Winking Lizard restaurant at the western end of the shops at East Broad. During this time, the city of Reynoldsburg had finally been able to annex Deerfield Estates, the neighborhood that had emboldened Mayor Twyford to tell the Columbus Dispatch in 1968, "I think we should annex everything between the Reynoldsburg-New Albany Road and the Licking County line south of Broad Street." Their annexation of the Asbury Park neighborhood off Wagoner Road in 1988 had brought the city limits to the southern edge of Deerfield Estates. So they consummated the merger in 1991. But given that Deerfield Estates had been transferred into the Licking County School District in 1924 and had even survived a ballot initiative in order to stay there in 1968, the Reynoldsburg School Board didn't even try to ask for that area to be transferred. When all was said and done, this is what the border between Reynoldsburg City Schools and Licking Heights local schools looked like by the end of 1991. So overall, it looks like the Reynoldsburg School Board might have bitten off more than they could chew when they went for those hundreds of tax-rich acres in Jefferson Township. They had asked for about 800 acres. They had gained a little more than 200 acres and lost a little less than 200 acres. They didn't get any of the industrial area, but in the spirit of win-win, they did get some of what they were really after: tax revenue. The territorial agreement also included plenty of language about how the tax money would be split in the decades to come. And as far as territory goes, the Reynoldsburg School District's future growth wasn't completely limited to the 225-acre cap at Summit Road and First Gate, because the drafters of the territorial agreement wrote in a couple of creative and unique arrangements: a growth corridor and joint operations areas. According to an article in the Reynoldsburg Reporter, board member Ron Strushan was confident that the district will not have to negotiate future annexations with the Licking Heights School District again. Spoiler alert, the district would have to negotiate future annexations with the Licking Heights School District again. Boundary check, 1992. At the beginning of this chapter, the Reynoldsburg School District Board of Education was attempting to keep up with the City of Reynoldsburg's annexations with the aim of aligning the city and school district borders as much as possible. Their progress was slowed considerably by the court case with the Licking Heights Board of Education. But it didn't slow down the city. Between 1980 and 1993, the City of Reynoldsburg annexed many more areas of Truro and Etna townships, often one property at a time, as individual owners decided it was time to get city water services. In Violet Township, the City of Reynoldsburg finally managed to annex the rest of Blacklick Woods Metro Park, even including the Stony Creek Golf Course. And in Jefferson Township, the city annexed even more acreage than what the Reynoldsburg and Licking Heights school boards were fighting over. But in 2025, most of these remain in the same school districts they were in 1993. And that brings us pretty much to the boundaries of the Reynoldsburg City School District as they exist today in 2025. But not quite. In the next 3 decades, one more annexation to the city of Columbus would become part of the Columbus School District. One more major annexation to the city of Reynoldsburg would become part of the Reynoldsburg School District. And several annexations combined would result in another 100 acres of common areas shared between the city of Columbus and Reynoldsburg City Schools. And we still haven't explained how 4 buildings in the Reynoldsburg School District somehow ended up located in Licking Heights Local School District. All that's coming up in the exciting final chapter of How the Reynoldsburg School District Got Its Shape.